everyone, this is 1 year on and I'm Alison, and following on from the previous episode, today's episode continues my interview series. Today I'm interviewing Laura, who's a physiotherapist, and I met her on my stroke journey. I didn't see a physio as part of my recovery, but I thought that listeners would benefit from a complete range of interviews covering all health professionals that they might see. First, I need to read this disclaimer. This interview is general information, it's not medical advice and doesn't replace assessment or care from your own clinical team. If you have concerns about your health or recovery, please seek advice from a qualified health professional. Okay, so after that, I'm delighted to welcome Laura Davison to our podcast. Hi Laura, can you please introduce yourself and give people a little bit of a background about what you do in the rehab space, given that many people do require physio to regain function?
Absolutely. My name is Laura. I've been a physio for about coming up 10 years. Coming into physiotherapy, I always wanted to be in the rehab space. Something like 70% of our graduates go into private practice physiotherapy, which is all about sports injuries and things like that. But I always envisioned myself working in the space of getting people back to what means most to them, and that is usually after a major life-changing event such as a stroke, and giving people that independence back, that power to be independent or as close as possible as they can get to. So I spent the majority of my career in that neurological rehabilitation. I initially actually started out in the hospital, but that was more in that acute setting. So I would regularly go onto the stroke wards and provide those initial assessments for people that have got admitted with a stroke. And then I spent the majority of my career in the private practice sector. So community-based rehabilitation, and I saw a variety of things. So majority was stroke, some Parkinson's disease, some MS, and then you'd always get your other rare conditions, your brain tumours, vestibular problems, things like that.
So you've had a wide practice across everything, really.
Yes, I've seen a lot of things.
You've seen a lot. And now you're at the university teaching new physios.
Yes, so I transitioned a couple of years ago into the university. So I started out just teaching and I've gradually transitioned full-time there. And that's really rewarding too, because a lot of people thinking about, I'm going to be a physiotherapist, don't actually think about this side of physiotherapy, which can be, in my mind, a bit, it means so much more to somebody to be able to walk again, somebody that's had a swollen ankle for a while and they just need a bit of support to get it back on track. I mean, both have their own merits in their own rights and equally valid.
But this makes a massive difference to somebody's life, doesn't
Absolutely. So my mission now is to get more students passionate about restoring that quality of life. It's all about that quality of what somebody can live with after a life-changing event.
That's really interesting. So you can talk to us today about all aspects of physio, really.
Yeah, I think I'm
not going to have all day.
Stuck my fingers in all aspects of physiotherapy, I think.
You have. So given that you've worked in hospital as well, and can you tell us about the pathways that people would come to a physio, say as an inpatient or as an outpatient, or afterwards, say through private practice?
Yeah, so you can do it a variety of ways.
Yeah.
To go to a private physiotherapy, you do not need any referral. You can just ring them up and rock on it. I think the issue comes when it comes to funding, so who's going to pay for it? And that's where we get all these different streams. So particularly on the inpatient side of physiotherapy, you need to be admitted to hospital access, and then through that community service pathway, you can then access the outpatient physiotherapy at hospital and then into the community through the sort of the community health intake.
Right.
So that's our public system, our doing as much as it can. And then in terms of the private components, again, coming down to funding, if you don't have anything like private health insurance or anything like that, you can go through your GP, and depending on what you need to see physiotherapists for, you can ask for what we call like treatment plans, and Medicare can help subsidise part of the cost.
Yeah, I got that for speech therapy.
Yeah. So most of the allied health is covered in those sort of 5 sessions. So say if you needed a couple for speech therapy, you needed a couple for physiotherapy, they could be put into the same plan.
Oh, you can use it across.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so it's podiatry a lot as well, occupational therapy, all those components.
So it's like a sort of a combined plan, and you can use it as you need.
Yeah, to an extent. Yes. So I think at the moment it's maximum 5 sessions across the whole board.
Okay.
So you might only be able to have 2 podiatry, 3 speech. But yeah, if you just have a chat to your GP, and you can get to physiotherapy in a variety of ways.
Ooh. So I suppose, given that you're a neuro physiotherapist, can we tell people about what do you specifically do for people after a stroke?
Absolutely. So, as a physiotherapist working with somebody after stroke, our primary goal is to get you to return to what we call baseline. So that might be, say, if you've had a stroke and you're in hospital, the physios there will first assess, and then they'll still try to get you back to baseline in that setting. Now, most people won't achieve baseline in that setting, and it will depend completely on the severity of your stroke and the timing of the stroke and your current level of function. But a lot of people who have had a stroke might go to inpatient rehabilitation, and that's where the physios will work really hard for that primary goal of getting you back to what you were doing before you had a stroke. Again, that's our sort of ideal. A lot of people may not get there for whatever reason, so it might depend on if your stroke was really severe, you may not be able to get back to that pre-injury level. So their secondary goal is to work to get you as independent as possible, so as close to that baseline as they can.
Because I suppose if somebody is in hospital, they have to have a certain level of independence to go home.
Absolutely. So that's where a lot of the inpatient rehab comes from. So the people that have gone through the hospital system would have had a lot of discussions with their doctors, with the rehab doctors, and with the allied health team. The people that are, for want of a better word, vetted for inpatient rehab are the people that have the potential to really improve in rehabilitation. For the people that have unfortunately had a big stroke and then had all these medical complications, they may not be suitable for inpatient rehabilitation just because of the timeline that they've had or the medical instability that they're currently experiencing. So it is a big discussion with the entire medical team as to whether a person does go to inpatient rehab or they discharge straight home if they're ready, or they go to a different service. But regardless, any sort of physiotherapy that you have after stroke should be centred around what is important and meaningful for that person.
Okay.
So again, whilst we try to install independence in as many movements as possible, like getting in and out of bed, standing up, walking, and utilising your upper limbs, we have to be person dependent. So if that person has no interest in walking, we're not going to push that, and we're going to push what is actually important for them.
I mean,
in saying that, most people have an interest in walking.
Well, that patient may have been wheelchair bound to start with.
Yep. So, and again, if somebody was wheelchair bound and had a stroke, our main priority probably would not be trying to get them to walk again, because that's probably a less likely goal that we're going to achieve.
What made you specialise in the area of therapy? What keeps you in it?
Well, I've always loved human biology and movement. So back in college, I studied that. It was my interest. So I thought being in a sort of medically related field would be useful. My sister is a doctor actually, but I saw what she had to go through to be a doctor, and I thought maybe that's not the path for me. I do still like to have a bit of a life outside of work. But yeah, when I stumbled across neurophysiotherapy, I thought that's such a meaningful thing to be a part of. Like, I value my independence physically. I'd really love for other people to be able to restore that for them, because I couldn't think of anything worse than not being able to do what you want to do physically.
Being independent is so important for so many people.
And I think we take it for granted a lot of the time.
Yes.
It's just like when you have a cold and you've taken for granted that ability to breathe. Like, I feel it's not the same, but it's a similar feeling when I get a really far away car park from the supermarket and I stand there and I put into perspective and I'm like, actually, I have legs, I can walk, this is completely fine. I really see value in the rehabilitation, and I've seen meaningful improvements in so many of my clients that they wouldn't have got otherwise if people weren't there to guide them and support them in it. Yeah, I think that's what keeps me in it.
I know that we've spoken a little bit about the fact that I didn't need physio. Maybe go back to that in a minute, but I firstly wasn't allowed to drive. So my independence was, not there at all. And I had to have somebody with me at all times to get around. And that was like, just that one thing was phenomenally difficult to even get my head around about that loss of independence. So then if you have all the other things that, like being able to shower and bath and go to the toilet yourself, brush your teeth yourself, everything like that, the general stuff that you don't even think about.
Yeah, it's like your life just shrinks a bit more the more restricted you are in when you can do stuff if you need assistance for it.
Yeah, well, exactly. Now, being a lecturer at the university, which gives you a different lens again, what do people misunderstand about stroke rehab?
So I really think it's really the importance of rehab after stroke. I'm a firm believer that even if you have quite a small stroke, rehabilitation still plays a role in getting you back to, again, that baseline component, or like at least feeling better afterwards. But the only way to get there is that high amount of practice and repetitions. And I think that's what's severely underestimated in most rehabilitation, is to get meaningful improvements, we have to create those new pathways in the brain, that neuroplasticity. And the only way to do that is rep upon rep upon rep. So it's just like learning a new skill. Thousands of hours are required to improve. So 5 to 10 minutes a day is unlikely to create those big changes.
It's funny now you say that, because when I've been preparing for these sessions, what's been really interesting, I've been thinking back to my own stroke recovery. And whilst at the hospital they're going, press with your feet, press with your hands, and I was strong enough that they're going, oh, really? Do you really think you've had a stroke? There's nothing wrong with you, Alison. But when I came home and I was trying to use my phone, and I was sitting here looking at the screen and all the apps, because I use this a lot, and then I was pointing in at the wrong app and pressing on the wrong one. So my fine motor skills were really badly affected. And I do a lot of typing at my work, touch typing all the time. And when I started typing on the keyboard, it's like, oh, hold on, this is really not right. So not that I consulted with any physiotherapist, but in my head it was, I've got to get back to work. And to do that, I've got to type again. And I've spoken on this podcast about, how I did typing practice. I took the Jane Austen book, Pride and Prejudice, because that was my go-to when I was sick. I would look at the video and I then dug out the book and I started copy typing. And I just sat every day for a period of time, type, until I got to a stage that I thought, yeah, I'm okay, I'll be all right now. But it was really confronting at the very beginning how bad I was.
Absolutely.
And, at the hospital, they didn't see that this was a problem because they were looking at the gross things. Can she stand up? Yeah, okay. Can she walk? Yes, I could. I walked into the hospital, and things like that. But obviously, I was very different to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for.
And stroke is such a broad spectrum as
well.
It completely depends where it is, how bad it is, as to what kind of impairments you have afterwards. And whilst I think our public health system is unbelievably fantastic in relation to everything around the world, in the end it is publicly funded, and the entire sort of component of physiotherapy in acute hospital is this person's safe to go home.
Yes.
And so yes, they won't pick up your fine motor skills, but they'll pick up, can this person safely walk, stand up, get dressed, have enough cognition to be safe at home. And they can go home and then get followed up in the community. But yeah, that's the point, is that you know yourself the best. So if you're picking up these small deficits, however small they are, your physio can work with you, or your OT can work with you, or your exercise physiologist can work with you if you have the goal.
That was the end of our first episode with Laura, the physiotherapist. Next time we'll continue on hearing from Laura about the range of things that she does and different aspects of physiotherapy, and especially neurophysiotherapy. Thank you very much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you. Bye.